If you're a man over 60, there's one private routine you may think is harmless, maybe even healthy, that could actually be draining your strength, weakening your circulation, and slowly wearing down your confidence. I'm talking about masturbation. Now, I know that word makes some people uncomfortable, but it shouldn't. This isn't about shame. It's about understanding what your body truly needs as you age. I'm Dr. Sophia Jain, a board-certified urologist and men's health specialist. For over 20 years, I've helped men in their 60s, 70s, and even 80s reclaim their vitality, not by giving up pleasure, but by rethinking how they approach it. And one of the most overlooked topics is how solo habits change with age. Not the fact that you have them, but how your body responds to them after 60. See, what felt normal or even beneficial in your 30s and 40s can start causing subtle damage as you get older. I'm not saying the act itself is harmful. I'm saying the way many men are doing it becomes a problem. Because your nervous system, your hormones, your blood flow, your muscle tone, none of it functions the same way it used to. And if you keep following old patterns without adjusting for your age, you can set yourself up for fatigue, prostate discomfort, and even reduced erectile function. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 4 of the most common masturbation mistakes I see in men over 60. And I'll tell you right now, the 4th one is almost never discussed, not even in most doctors' offices, but it's one of the biggest culprits when it comes to loss of circulation and long-term sexual frustration. So stay with me to the end, because each of these can help you understand your body better and start making changes that restore your strength instead of drain it. Let's start with the first mistake, one that's far more common than you'd think: forcing your way through a weak erection. Now, this usually sounds like it's not what it used to be, but I can still make it work if I push hard enough. I've had patients tell me this with a mix of pride and frustration. But what they don't realize is that forcing stimulation, especially when the erection isn't full or firm, can actually cause more harm than good. As you age, blood flow to the penis naturally decreases. That's part of the normal aging process. Testosterone levels may dip, sensitivity changes, and the smooth muscle tissue inside the penis becomes less responsive. So when arousal takes longer or feels weaker, many men react by speeding up the process. They grip tighter, move faster, breathe shallower, and they try to push their body to a climax it isn't ready for. But here's the problem. That kind of aggressive stimulation, especially when there isn't enough blood in the penis, puts strain on delicate tissues that aren't meant to be stretched or compressed in that state. You can create tiny micro-tears in the erectile tissue, irritate the urethra, and overstimulate the nerves. Worse yet, this can increase tension in the pelvic floor muscles, which can reduce circulation and even trigger chronic pain or performance issues over time. One of the least discussed issues is the relationship between pelvic tension and erectile quality. When you force your body to climax instead of letting arousal build naturally, you're tightening the very muscles that should be relaxed during an erection. Over time, this tightness can choke off blood flow and disrupt the natural erectile response. It becomes a feedback loop. Less blood flow leads to more tension, and more tension leads to even weaker erections. I've seen men in their mid-60s come into my clinic with lingering groin discomfort, numbness in the glands, or reduced sensation that gradually got worse over the years. And in many cases, it wasn't due to disease or aging. It was due to how they were treating their bodies during solo activity. So what's the solution? First, slow everything down. Use a gentler touch. Give your body time to respond. Don't treat it like a machine that just needs to be flipped on. Instead, see it like a partner that needs to feel safe, connected, and respected. If an erection doesn't come easily, don't force it. Shift your focus away from performance and toward sensation. This one change alone can start to retrain your body and help rebuild healthier sexual circulation. Now let's move to the second mistake. This one doesn't just affect your physical body, it starts reshaping your brain. Using online pornography as your primary source of arousal. Let me be clear, I'm not here to pass judgment. Pornography is a personal choice, and I understand the appeal. But for men over 60, especially those who feel less desire than they used to, the way porn affects the brain and body can be more damaging than most realize. Here's what's going on neurologically. When you watch fast-paced, high-intensity visual content, your brain releases a surge of dopamine. That's the pleasure chemical that helps you feel aroused and excited. But the more often you stimulate your brain this way, the more it begins to adapt. Over time, you need more stimulation to feel the same level of excitement. What used to get your attention no longer feels as powerful. So you click longer, search harder, or chase more extreme content, and the baseline of arousal shifts upward. The problem is, your real-life intimacy doesn't keep up with that. Your partner's touch, a moment of closeness, a slow build of tension, it just doesn't produce the same kind of dopamine hit anymore. And that disconnect is what leads many men to say, "I just don't feel anything unless I'm watching something online." But the truth is, you've trained your brain to need hyperstimulation. And when that becomes your only route to pleasure, the real-world experiences, touch, connection, emotion, can start to feel flat or even stressful. I once had a patient, 72 years old, who told me he had a loving relationship with his wife, but couldn't feel aroused unless he watched a specific type of video alone. And it crushed him. He didn't know how it got that far. It was never a big deal when he was younger. But after decades of this habit, his ability to connect to real intimacy had quietly faded. Fortunately, the brain is flexible, even in your 60s or 70s. It can unlearn just as much as it learns. And that means you can retrain it to respond to subtler, more natural sources of arousal. One of the best ways to do this is to slowly reduce your dependence on screens. Instead, use your imagination. Recall positive experiences. Use touch without a visual crutch. Read something sensual instead of watching something explicit. These small changes slowly rebuild the nervous system's sensitivity and bring your arousal response back to a healthier balance. You'll also notice something else: emotional clarity. When your brain isn't on a constant loop of overexcitement and crash, you'll feel more balanced, more grounded, and less foggy. Your confidence will improve, and your body will feel more in sync with itself. And as we shift into the next part of this discussion, we're going to talk about something even more subtle, but just as serious. A habit that many men continue well into their 60s without realizing it's robbing them of energy, draining their testosterone, and even affecting their sleep. We've already covered the first two silent mistakes, forcing climax through weak erections and relying too heavily on pornography. Now, let's move to the third one, and this one is huge. Especially if you're waking up tired, feeling emotionally flat, or just not enjoying life the way you used to. The third mistake is masturbating too frequently for your energy levels after 60. Now, I want to be really clear. Sexual activity, including solo activity, can be a healthy part of life at any age. The issue here isn't that you're doing it. The issue is how often and whether your body can actually handle that frequency anymore. I had a patient recently, 69 years old, very sharp, in good overall health, but constantly feeling drained. He said to me, "Dr. Jain, I sleep 8 hours, I eat clean, I even walk daily, but I still feel like I've got no gas in the tank." We ran his labs. His heart was fine, his testosterone was borderline low but not dangerous, and his blood sugar looked good. But when we talked about his daily habits, I found something important. He was ejaculating nearly every day, sometimes more than once, and he thought it was his way of staying active. The truth is, the male body doesn't recover from ejaculation the way it did in your 30s or 40s. After 60, everything slows down: hormone production, nervous system reset, tissue recovery, energy metabolism. When you climax, your body releases a flood of neurochemicals designed to help you relax and recover. But when you do that too often, your body doesn't get the chance to fully reset. The nervous system stays strained. Your testosterone takes a hit. And your energy, the deep kind of energy that fuels focus, ambition, and movement, starts to decline. Most men don't connect the dots. They feel moody, unmotivated, or chronically tired, and they think it's just aging. But in many cases, it's depletion. Quiet, steady depletion from a habit that once felt harmless. And I get it. It's hard to imagine that something which used to bring relief is now causing stress. But your body after 60 has new needs. It's not just about staying active. It's about being in rhythm with your biology. So what should you do? First, experiment with less frequency. For many men, reducing ejaculation to once or twice a week makes a huge difference. Not cutting it out entirely, just spacing it out enough to allow full recovery. You'll start to notice better sleep, more clarity, even improved erections. Why? Because you're giving your body a chance to rebuild the hormones and neurotransmitters that support arousal and energy. Second, remember that pleasure doesn't always need to end in climax. This is something very few men are ever taught, but it's incredibly powerful. Engaging in slower, more mindful self-touch without always chasing orgasm can help you rewire your body to find satisfaction in the process, not just the release. This helps restore your nervous system instead of exhausting it. Think of it this way. You've spent decades in a performance mode. Get it done, get the release, move on. But at this stage, your body is asking for something different. More presence, more patience, and more space between sessions. When you give it that space, it rewards you with strength, stability, and deeper emotional connection, not just with your partner, but with yourself. Now, this brings us to mistake number 4. And I consider this one the most ignored issue in men's sexual health after 60. The first 3 mistakes affect your energy, your brain, and your erection quality. But this one goes deeper. This one affects a tiny but powerful gland that sits at the center of so many men's silent struggles. Mistake 4 is ignoring your prostate's health during and after masturbation. Let me tell you a story. I had a patient, 66 years old, who came in with a strange complaint. He didn't have sharp pain, but he said he felt off after climax, like a pressure or heaviness down there. Not pain exactly, but discomfort. He also said it sometimes felt like he didn't fully empty his bladder, even though he'd just gone to the bathroom. We ran tests, ruled out infection, and then we talked about his habits. And sure enough, like many men, he had a very fixed routine. He'd sit in a soft chair, usually late at night, slouched forward, watching a screen. He wouldn't urinate afterward. He didn't think about position or pressure. He just did what he'd always done. Here's what I explained to him. After 60, the prostate becomes more vulnerable to pressure, inflammation, and fluid congestion. When you masturbate in a slouched position, especially sitting down, you put direct pressure on the perineum, the area between the scrotum and the anus. That pressure gets transferred to the prostate. And if you're not urinating afterward, you're allowing residual fluid and bacteria to sit in the urethra and around the gland, which can quietly irritate the tissue over time. This doesn't lead to sudden pain or dramatic symptoms. It's a slow buildup. A little more inflammation each week. A little more discomfort. Until eventually you notice urinary changes, urgency, weak stream, frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom, or a lingering feeling of tension that won't quite go away. The worst part? Most men don't even realize they're doing anything wrong. They just think, well, I'm getting older. But in many cases, these changes are avoidable. So here's what I recommend to protect your prostate. Change your position. Instead of sitting, try standing or lying on your back with a small pillow under your hips. This takes pressure off the perineum. Always urinate after climax. This flushes the urethra and helps reduce the risk of fluid buildup or inflammation. Be gentle with your touch. Aggressive pressure on the perineum or surrounding muscles can stress the prostate, especially if done repeatedly. Pay attention to your body afterward. If you feel discomfort, pressure, or pelvic tension, don't ignore it. That's your body's way of saying something's off. When men start adjusting these small habits, I've seen real improvements. Fewer nighttime bathroom trips. Less pelvic discomfort, more control over their bladder, and most importantly, less fear and frustration about what's happening down there. Because here's the truth, most men aren't warned about these things. No one teaches them that self-pleasure after 60 requires a different approach. So they keep doing what they've always done, unaware that the small decisions they make behind closed doors are shaping their long-term comfort and health. But now you do know. And that knowledge gives you the power to make changes that truly matter. In the final part of this video, we're going to bring everything together. I'll walk you through how to rebuild your relationship with your body, how to use these insights to reclaim circulation and energy, and how to shift from performance to presence in a way that restores strength at its core. Let's take everything we've covered so far and start building something better. Because once you understand the 4 common masturbation mistakes, forcing release, relying on porn, going too often for your energy levels, and ignoring your prostate, you're in a position to shift your entire relationship with your body. And that's where real transformation begins. First, I want you to hear this clearly: you are not broken. If you've been feeling less desire, less sensation, or less confidence in your body, that doesn't mean you're in decline. It means your body is evolving, and it's asking you to evolve with it. This is something I remind my patients all the time. Your body doesn't stop being sexual just because you pass a certain birthday. But the rules change. And the men who adjust, who listen, who adapt, are the ones who keep their vitality well into their 70s, even 80s. The truth is, most men have spent a lifetime being told that performance equals masculinity. That climax is the goal. That pleasure is only meaningful if it's intense and fast and repeatable. But that version of sexuality, while common, is also exhausting, especially as you get older. What if I told you that slowing down, doing less, and listening more could actually increase your pleasure and restore your circulation over time? It's not a fantasy. It's real biology. When you stop overloading your nervous system and stop forcing your body to deliver on old timelines, something amazing happens. Your blood flow improves. Your stress hormones drop. Your testosterone stabilizes. Your pelvic floor relaxes. And your erections, believe it or not, actually get better, not just in firmness, but in sensation and reliability. This is what I call rebuilding from the inside out. And it doesn't take pills, gadgets, or extreme routines. It takes intention, gentle, conscious choices. Here's how you can start today. Step 1, adjust your expectations. Give yourself permission to change your relationship with pleasure. Instead of aiming for a quick release, aim for connection to your own body, to your breath, to the feelings that arise when you slow down. Allow arousal to build without pressure. Use slower strokes, more full-body touch, and longer sessions with no set destination. You're not chasing an orgasm. You're inviting sensation. That shift alone helps reset the overstimulated wiring that many men struggle with. Step 2, reduce overstimulation. That means less screen time, especially when it comes to sexual content. If you've trained your brain to only respond to visual triggers, you've likely dulled your deeper arousal circuits. Reawaken them by using memory, fantasy, imagination, even music. These sources tap into different parts of your brain, helping you reclaim your natural libido without relying on extreme input. Step 3, focus on recovery. After climax, give your body time. If you used to bounce back in hours, now you may need 2 or 3 days. That's not weakness. That's how your body restores itself now. Listen to that rhythm. Don't override it. Many of my patients find that when they masturbate less frequently, their erections are stronger, their mood is better, and their mental clarity returns. You're not giving something up. You're giving your body what it needs. Step 4, support your prostate. Every time you climax, your prostate contracts to release fluid. That's normal. But if you're stimulating in a way that compresses or irritates that area, especially while seated or hunched, you're adding unnecessary strain. Switch to a position that relieves pressure, like lying on your back. And always urinate after climax. This helps flush the urethra and reduce inflammation. These changes may sound small, but they protect a gland that controls far more than just your sexual function. It affects your urinary health, sleep quality, and comfort every day. And finally, step 5, redefine what success means. You don't need to chase the same kind of climax you had in your 20s. That goal-oriented mindset is part of what creates tension, disappointment, and emotional disconnection. Instead, think of success as feeling good in your body, as being present, as having the freedom to explore pleasure in a way that aligns with who you are now, not who you used to be. Because you're not less of a man. You're more of one, wiser, more experienced, and more capable of understanding your body on a deeper level. I've seen men who thought they had lost everything rediscover pleasure in ways they never imagined. And it didn't come from doing more. It came from listening more. One of my favorite stories comes from a 74-year-old patient who said he hadn't felt turned on in years. He thought his sex life was over. But when we talked about his habits, he realized he'd been pushing too hard, expecting too much, and never giving his body time to just feel. I encouraged him to stop chasing results and start spending quiet time touching his body. No agenda, no goal, just curiosity. Within weeks, he noticed a shift. He began waking up with stronger morning erections. He felt more emotionally connected to his wife. He started walking taller, smiling more. It wasn't just about sex. It was about aliveness. That's what this conversation is really about, not technique, not guilt, not performance. It's about helping you feel alive again, helping you come back into yourself in a way that feels whole and real and grounded. And all of it starts with letting go of those 4 old habits that no longer serve you. When I work with men one-on-one, I don't give them a magic pill. I help them create a new relationship with their own bodies. One that's built on respect, patience, curiosity, and real pleasure, not just release. And it starts with slowing down. If you're used to treating masturbation as stress relief, try using it as stress recovery instead. Don't rush. Turn it into a ritual. Dim the lights. Warm your hands. Breathe deeply. Make it something you look forward to, not for the end result, but for the process. If you've been relying on fantasy or video, take a break. Even a 7-day reset can be powerful. Let your brain detox. Relearn how to respond to touch, warmth, breath, your real, present moment senses. That's what stirs your circulation naturally. If you feel pressure to climax every time, give yourself permission not to. There's no rule that says every session must end the same way. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is just feel, explore, and leave yourself wanting more. That alone restores a sense of energy and power that most men haven't felt in years. Now let's talk briefly about circulation, because it's at the center of everything. Blood flow is what creates strong, lasting erections. And blood flow is not just about your arteries, it's about your stress levels, your nitric oxide, your breathing, your mindset, and even your posture. Every time you tense up, whether from rushing, hunching, or worrying, you're shrinking the very space your blood needs to travel. That's why the best practices to restore male vitality are usually gentle, not aggressive. A few habits I recommend. Take 5 to 10 minutes every morning to stretch your hips and lower back. That relieves tension in the pelvic floor and supports better blood flow. Drink a tall glass of water with lemon and a pinch of sea salt first thing. It helps hydrate your blood volume. Take slow belly breaths before any sexual activity, even masturbation. Deep breathing boosts nitric oxide, which naturally improves circulation. And if you sit a lot, stand up and move every hour. Just walking for 2 to 3 minutes improves blood movement in the groin. These sound simple, but when you stack them together daily, they start rebuilding the foundation you thought was gone. And here's something else. You don't need to do this alone. If you have a partner, invite them into the journey. Let them know you're resetting, exploring, tuning back into your body. Most partners are more supportive than you think, especially when they see how much more alive and present you become. This is a chapter of your life that's filled with potential. But you have to be willing to let go of old definitions. You're not here to prove anything anymore. You're here to experience. And that experience becomes richer, more powerful, and more meaningful when it's rooted in awareness, not pressure. I'll leave you with one last story. A man in his early 60s came to see me. He'd been divorced for 5 years, hadn't been intimate with anyone since, and said he felt invisible, as a man, as a sexual being, as someone with desire. When we looked at his habits, they were exactly what we've talked about today: quick sessions, no real recovery time, constant screen-based arousal, and growing frustration. I didn't give him medication. I gave him a challenge. I asked him to spend 30 days without climax. Not forever, just 30 days to reset. During that time, he could touch, explore, feel, but no release. Instead, he journaled, stretched, breathed, and paid attention. Week 2, he told me he was dreaming vividly for the first time in years. Week 3, he said he started noticing women around him again, not in a creepy way, but in a wow, I feel alive again kind of way. By week 4, he had stronger morning wood than he'd had in a decade, and more than that, he wanted to connect again. That's the real goal here. Not just stronger performance, but a deeper connection to life itself. And you can get there. Even now. Especially now. Dr. Sophia Jain here, reminding you, your body is not broken. It's just waiting for you to listen, to adjust, and to give it the space it needs to heal and thrive. You've still got power. You've still got potential. Let's honor it, not hide it. Take your time, breathe, and let your body show you the way back to real strength.